Welcome to Mindleapic. This is your gentle place to unwind at the end of the day. Here we share slow, peaceful stories from history to help you relax and drift toward sleep. If this feels soothing tonight, please consider giving the video a quiet like and subscribing so these calm moments can find you again. And if you'd like, leave a soft comment below. Perhaps share the city or country where you're listening from tonight. It's nice to know we're all settling down together in different corners of the world. Now, take a slow breath in and out. Dim the lights if you can. Pull the covers up gently. Let your body become heavy against the bed. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Tonight, we travel back to ancient Britain, to a quiet Celtic hamlet in the Iron Age, long before the bustle of cities or empires. A small cluster of roundhouses rests in a gentle valley, surrounded by rolling green hills, misty in the twilight. The people here live simply, close to the land and the slow turning of the seasons. Their days are made of small, steady tasks, tending fields, weaving at the loom, sharing warmth by the hearth. There is no hurry. The world moves at the pace of growing barley, of sheep grazing, of embers glowing low. Let us begin, very slowly, in the soft light of evening. Part 1. In this hamlet, the round houses stand close together, their thatched roofs sloping gently toward the ground like soft brown hills. Each house is built of woven branches covered in daub, smooth and warm to the touch. The doorways face east, so the first pale light of morning can slip inside. As twilight settles, the air carries the faint scent of wood smoke. It drifts lazily from the central hearths, curling up through the open roof peaks. Inside one house, a family gathers. The mother stirs a pot of barley stew over the low flames. The fire crackles quietly, sending tiny sparks upward like distant stars. Her daughter sits nearby on a low stool of woven rushes. She works the loom with steady hands. The wool threads move back and forth in a slow, even rhythm. Thump, slide, thump, slide. The sound is soft and regular, like a heartbeat in the room. Outside, the father returns from the fields. His steps are slow across the damp grass. He carries a small basket of roots he gathered earlier. The evening mist rises from the ground, wrapping the hamlet in a gentle gray veil. Sheep call faintly from their pen, a low, comforting sound. Children play quietly near the doorway. They roll small stones in patterns on the earth floor. Their laughter is hushed, blending with the evening breeze that moves through the thatch. The family sits together as the light fades. They eat slowly from wooden bowls. The stew is warm, flavored with wild herbs from the hills. No one speaks loudly. Words come in murmurs, like the wind in the trees. After the meal, the mother banks the fire with fresh peat. The flames settle lower, glowing red and steady. The family wraps themselves in woolen cloaks and settles on beds of straw. Covered with hides, the room grows dim, filled only with the soft pop of the embers and the distant hoot of an owl. Night falls completely. The hamlet sleeps under a blanket of stars. The seasons turn slowly here. Spring planting, summer growth, autumn harvest, winter rest. Each day blends into the next, peaceful and unhurried. Tomorrow will bring more of the same gentle work, tending the animals at dawn, grinding grain between smooth stones, weaving another length of cloth, stories told by the fire as the world quiets again. For now, though, everything is still. The wind whispers across the thatch. The hearth glows faintly. Breathe in, breathe out. Let the quiet of this ancient place wrap around you. The next morning arrives softly in the Celtic hamlet. Dawn comes with a pale gray light filtering through the mist. The hills around the valley seem to breathe slowly, their outlines blurred and gentle. Dew clings to every blade of grass, making the ground shimmer faintly when the first weak rays touch it. Inside the roundhouse, the embers from last night still hold a quiet warmth. The mother rises first. She moves without hurry, bare feet padding across the cool earth floor. She kneels by the hearth and adds small pieces of dry kindling. With a soft breath, she coaxes the fire back to life. Tiny flames appear, steady and low, spreading a golden glow across the sleeping faces nearby. The daughter stirs next. She sits up slowly on her straw bed, wool cloak still wrapped around her shoulders. Her hair falls loose, tangled from sleep. She rubs her eyes with the back of one hand, then reaches for the small clay pot of water by the wall. She takes a slow sip, letting the coolness settle inside her. Outside, the father steps into the morning air. The mist is thickest now, curling around his ankles like pale smoke. He walks to the pen where the sheep wait. Their wool is damp with dew, curling in soft white waves. He speaks to them in low, murmuring tones. Simple, words of greeting that have been said the same way for generations. He checks the gate, then scatters a handful of dried leaves for them to nibble. The children wake last. They emerge from the house blinking, stretching small arms toward the sky. One picks up a stick and draws lazy circles in the dirt near the doorway. Another gathers a few smooth pebbles, arranging them in a neat row on a flat stone. Their movements are unhurried, matching the slow pace of the waking world. Breakfast is simple and quiet. The mother ladles warm barley porridge into bowls. A few wild berries, gathered yesterday, rest on top, small bursts of purple and red. They eat sitting close to the hearth. The only sounds are the gentle scrape of wooden spoons against bowls and the soft crackle of the fire. After the meal, the day's gentle work begins. The daughter carries a basket to the stream that runs at the edge of the hamlet. The water moves slowly here, clear over rounded stones. She kneels on the bank, dips the basket, and lets the current rinse the night's dust from yesterday's roots and herbs. The sound of water over stone is steady, almost like breathing. Nearby, another woman from a neighboring house tends the small garden plot. She pulls weeds with careful fingers, placing each one aside in a neat pile. The soil is dark and rich, smelling faintly of rain and earth. She works in silence, pausing now and then to look up at the hills, where the mist is beginning to lift. The father walks to the edge of the barley field. The stalks stand tall now, heads heavy and golden in the strengthening light. He runs his hand along them, feeling the soft brush of grain against his palm. He checks for signs of blight or damage, but today the crop looks calm and healthy. He nods to himself, satisfied, then turns back toward the houses. Mid-morning arrives without rush. The sun climbs higher, burning away the last thin threads of mist. Light spills across the thatched roofs, turning them warm brown. A soft breeze moves through the valley, carrying the scent of damp grass and distant pine. Inside one house, an older woman sits by the open doorway. She spins wool with a drop spindle. The thread twists slowly between her fingers as the spindle turns. Whir, pause. Whir, pause. The rhythm is even and soothing, like the turning of the seasons themselves. Around her, life continues in its quiet way. A child brings her a small handful of dried lavender from the garden. She smiles gently, tucks it into the folds of her cloak. The fragrance drifts upward, mingling with the wood smoke. The hamlet breathes together. No one hurries. Tasks are done one at a time with care. The day unfolds slowly, like a flower opening petal by petal in the morning sun. Breathe in now. Breathe out. Feel the same slow rhythm in your own body. Let the gentle sounds of this ancient morning settle over you. The afternoon light in the Celtic hamlet grows softer as the day moves on. The sun sits lower now, its rays slanting across the valley in long, warm, golden lines. Shadows stretch gently from the roundhouses, pooling like dark pools on the grass. The air feels warmer, carrying the faint sweetness of ripening grain and sun-warmed earth. The daughter has returned from the stream. She sets the clean basket down just inside the doorway. Water droplets still cling to the woven sides, catching tiny sparks of light. She wipes her hands on the hem of her tunic, then steps back outside to join her mother at the weaving loom set near the house wall. The loom stands tall and simple. 2 upright posts driven into the ground, with a crossbar holding the warp threads taut. The threads hang straight and even, pale wool catching the afternoon glow. Mother and daughter work together without words at first. One passes the shuttle through the shed, while the other presses the beater bar down with a gentle, steady motion. Thump, slide, thump, slide. The cloth grows slowly, row by row, soft and thick. A light breeze moves through the valley again. It lifts strands of their hair and rustles the barley stalks in the field beyond. The sound is like a long, slow sigh from the land itself. Nearby, the father sits on a low bench outside another house. He sharpens a small flint sickle with a smooth river stone. The scrape of stone against flint is quiet and rhythmic. Scrape, pause, scrape, pause. He tests the edge with his thumb now and then, nodding when it feels right. The tool will be ready soon for the coming harvest, when the grain must be cut carefully, stalk by stalk. Children wander between the houses in their easy way. One carries a small clay cup of water to an elder sitting in the shade. The elder accepts it with a slow nod, drinks in small sips, then returns the cup with a gentle touch to the child's shoulder. Another child sits cross-legged on the ground, pressing patterns into a lump of damp clay with a stick. Simple spirals and lines take shape, marks that mean nothing and everything at once. From the far side of the hamlet comes the low, steady sound of someone pounding grain. A woman works a quern stone in the shade of her roundhouse. She turns the upper stone in slow circles, grain cracking softly between the 2 flat surfaces. The rhythm is even, almost musical. Grind, turn, grind, turn. Fine meal gathers beneath, pale and soft, ready for tomorrow's bread. As the light begins to slant more deeply, a few hens scratch quietly near the houses. Their feathers gleam reddish-brown in the sun. They peck at seeds and bits of chaff scattered on the ground, moving in their own calm, unhurried pattern. An older man walks slowly along the edge of the settlement. He carries a staff of polished hazel, tapping it lightly with each step. He stops now and then to look at the sky, the hills, the slow drift of clouds. His face is lined and calm. He has seen many seasons turn in this valley. Springs of new green, summers of heavy heads of grain, autumns of golden light, winters of quiet frost. Each one the same gentle cycle. Inside one house, a grandmother sits near the hearth. She sorts dried herbs into small bundles. Yarrow, chamomile, nettle. Her fingers move carefully, tying each bundle with a thin strip of twine. The scents rise gently, earthy, green, faintly sweet. She places them in a woven basket lined with clean rushes. Later, they will steep in hot water, soothing throats or easing small aches. The afternoon drifts onward without hurry. Tasks finish one by one, then begin again in their quiet turn. No one counts the hours. Time here is measured by the height of the sun, the length of shadows, the changing color of the light. The valley holds everything softly. The sounds, the scents, the slow movements of people and animals and wind. It is a place where days repeat with small, comforting sameness. Let that same softness settle over you now. Feel your breath match the slow rhythm of the afternoon breeze. In and out. Slow, steady. Part 4. As the sun dips lower still in the Celtic Hamlet, the light turns the color of pale honey. The valley grows quieter now. The sharp calls of birds soften into distant murmurs. Shadows lengthen across the grass, reaching toward the roundhouses like gentle fingers. The air cools slightly, carrying the first faint hint of evening dew. The mother and daughter finish another length of cloth on the loom. They step back together, running their hands slowly along the new weave. The wool feels thick, and even under their palms, warm from the day's sun, soft from careful work. They fold the finished piece carefully and set it aside on a low wooden bench inside the house. Tomorrow it will become part of a cloak, or perhaps a blanket for the colder months ahead. Inside, the hearth fire has been fed fresh peat. It burns low and steady, sending a gentle warmth into the round space. The mother kneels and places a flat baking stone near the embers. She shapes small rounds of dough, barley mixed with water and a pinch of salt, pressing them thin with her palms. When the stone is hot enough, she lays the flatbreads down one by one. They hiss softly as they touch the warm surface, then settle into quiet cooking. The scent of baking grain rises slowly, filling the house like a comforting embrace. The father returns from the field edge. He carries a small bundle of hazel branches cut for kindling. He places them neatly beside the hearth, then sits on a rush mat near the fire. His hands rest open on his knees. He watches the flames without hurry, letting the warmth ease the day's small tiredness from his shoulders. The children come inside now too. Their cheeks are pink from the afternoon breeze. One carries a handful of late wildflowers, tiny white daisies and purple clover, gathered from the grassy slope behind the houses. They place the flowers in a shallow clay bowl near the doorway. Petals drop softly onto the earth floor, pale against the dark ground. An elder from the next roundhouse steps over for a moment. She brings a small jar of honey gathered earlier in the season. The honey is thick and golden, smelling faintly of heather from the high hills. She sets it down beside the hearth and exchanges a few quiet words with the mother, simple thanks, gentle smiles. Then she returns to her own house, her steps slow and measured across the cooling grass. The family gathers closer to the fire as twilight deepens. They eat the fresh flatbreads while they are still warm, tearing small pieces and dipping them into the last of the morning's barley stew. The meal is plain, nourishing, eaten slowly. No one speaks much. The crackle of the fire and the soft chewing fill the space instead. After the bowls are empty, the daughter takes a small bone needle and a length of sinew thread. She mends a tear in one of the smaller cloaks. Her stitches are tiny and even, moving in and out with calm patience. The needle glints faintly in the firelight each time it passes through the wool. The father tells a short, quiet story while they sit. His voice is low, almost blending with the sound of the wind outside. He speaks of the great oak that stands alone on the hill beyond the valley, an ancient tree said to have watched the first people settle here long ago. He describes how its branches spread wide, how its leaves turn gold in autumn and fall slowly, one by one, to carpet the ground. The children listen with half-closed eyes, their heads resting against wool-covered shoulders. Outside, the hamlet quiets completely. Doors are pulled shut with soft thuds. Fires burn lower in every roundhouse. Smoke rises in thin gray threads, straight up into the still air. Stars begin to appear one at a time above the thatch roofs. Small, steady points of light. The night settles over the valley like a thick wool blanket. The mist returns, drifting down from the hills to wrap the houses in gentle white. Sheep shift quietly in their pen, settling closer together for warmth. An owl calls once, low and far away, then falls silent. Inside the house, the family lies down on their straw beds. Cloaks are pulled up to chins. The hearth glows faintly now, just enough to outline familiar shapes in the dark. The mother banks the fire one last time, covering the embers with ash so they will wait patiently until morning. The roundhouse grows still. Only the softest sounds remain. The slow breathing of sleep, the occasional pop of a dying ember, the whisper of wind moving through the thatch. Let this same deep calm wrap around you now. Feel the weight of the covers on your body, heavy and safe. Let your breath slow to match the quiet rhythm of this ancient night. In and out, slower, deeper. Morning returns to the Celtic hamlet in the same soft way it always does. The sky lightens slowly from deep gray to pale silver. No sharp edges anywhere, just gentle gradients of color spreading across the hills. A thin layer of mist still lingers in the lowest parts of the valley, curling around the bases of the roundhouses like quiet breath. Inside the house, the embers have kept a faint warmth through the night. The mother stirs first again. She uncovers the ash from the hearth with careful movements, revealing the dull red glow beneath. A few small twigs, then a handful of dry peat. She blows once, twice, softly, and the flames appear, small at first, then steadier. The familiar crackle begins, low and comforting. The daughter wakes to the sound. She sits up slowly, drawing her knees toward her chest under the wool cloak. For a moment, she simply watches the fire grow, letting its light dance across her face. Her breath is visible in the cool morning air inside the roundhouse. She reaches for the small wooden comb beside her bed and runs it through. Her hair in long, even strokes. The motion is soothing, repetitive. Down, up, down, up. The father steps outside into the fresh dawn. The grass is wet under his bare feet. He walks the short distance to the stream, cupping his hands to splash cold water over his face and neck. The water is clear, moving steadily over smooth stones. He drinks a few slow mouthfuls, then stands for a while listening to the gentle rush of the current and the first faint twittering of small birds waking in the hawthorn trees. Back at the house, the children wake one by one. They stretch small limbs, yawn quietly, then slip outside to the open air. One gathers dry twigs from the pile near the doorway, stacking them neatly beside the hearth. Another finds a handful of dry sheep wool caught on a nearby fence post and brings it inside to add to the kindling basket. Breakfast this morning is the last of yesterday's flatbreads, warmed again on the hot stone, with a thin spread of the heather honey. They sit in a loose circle around the fire. The honey tastes of distant summer fields, sweet, floral, slow to melt on the tongue. They eat without hurry, savoring each small bite. When the bowls are empty and the fire is burning well, the day's gentle tasks begin again. The mother takes a large clay pot to the stream to fetch fresh water. She walks slowly, balancing the pot on one hip. The path is worn smooth by many feet over many years. At the water's edge she kneels, dips the pot, and lets it fill. The surface ripples softly, reflecting the pale sky. She carries it back full, water sloshing quietly with each careful step. The daughter goes to the small herb patch behind the house. She kneels among the low green plants, mint, sorrel, wild garlic, and pulls a few leaves here and there. She places them in the fold of her tunic, careful not to crush them. The scent rises fresh and green as she works. She hums a wordless tune under her breath, so softly it blends with the morning breeze. The father walks to the pen and lets the sheep out to graze. They move in their calm, clustered way, noses low to the ground, cropping the short grass. He follows them a short distance, making sure the way is clear of thorns or loose stones. Then he sits on a low rise overlooking the field, watching them spread out slowly across the slope. The sun climbs higher, warming his shoulders through the wool of his tunic. Children play near the houses in their quiet manner. They build small cairns of smooth river stones, stacking them carefully until the piles stand knee-high. One child finds a long feather, perhaps from a buzzard, and holds it up to catch the light. The feather turns slowly between small fingers, soft gray and white catching the morning glow. From another roundhouse comes the sound of someone grinding grain again. The quernstone turns in its familiar rhythm. Grind, turn, grind, turn. The woman working it pauses now and then to wipe her hands on a scrap of cloth, then continues. The fine meal piles up slowly, pale and soft in the wooden trough beneath. An older man walks the perimeter of the hamlet. He carries no tools today, only his hazel staff. He stops at each house in turn, offering a quiet word or a slow nod to whoever is outside. His presence is calm, steady, like an anchor in the gentle flow of the day. The light strengthens. Mist burns away completely. The valley opens wide and green under a clear sky. Barley fields shimmer faintly as the breeze moves through them. Sheep bleat softly in the distance. Smoke rises straight from every thatch roof. Everything continues in its slow, repeating pattern. No task is rushed. No moment is hurried. The hamlet simply breathes with the land. Let your own breath follow that same unhurried pace now. In, slow, and out, deeper. Feel the quiet weight of the morning settle over you, safe and familiar. The midday sun now rests high above the Celtic hamlet, warm but never harsh. Its light falls evenly across the valley, turning the green of the hills a deeper, richer shade. A few thin clouds drift slowly overhead, their edges soft and blurred against the pale blue sky. The air holds the gentle heat of late summer. Comfortable, steady, without any edge of sharpness. In the barley field, the father begins the careful work of checking the ripest stalks. He walks between the rows with slow steps, bending now and then to run his fingers along a heavy head of grain. The stalks rustle softly against his tunic as he moves. The grain feels full and firm beneath his touch. Ready soon, but not yet urgent. He marks a few plants with small twists of dried grass tied near the base, a quiet signal for the days ahead when the harvest will truly begin. Back near the roundhouses, the mother and daughter have moved their weaving inside to escape the strongest light. They sit cross-legged on rush mats near the open doorway. The loom rests between them. The daughter works the shuttle, now while the mother adjusts the tension of the warp, threads with small, precise movements of her hands. The cloth grows inch by inch, pale wool turning into something warm and useful. Thump, slide, thump, slide. The sound drifts out into the quiet afternoon like a lullaby. Children have gathered in the shade of one of the larger houses. They sit in a loose circle on the ground. passing a small polished stone from hand to hand. Each child holds it for a moment, tracing its smooth curves with fingertips, then passes it on. No game, no rules, just the simple pleasure of the cool weight moving slowly around the circle. Their voices are hushed, murmuring about small things, the shape of a cloud, the color of a feather found earlier, the way the light catches on the stream. An older woman from a neighboring roundhouse tends a small fire outside her door. She has set a wide, shallow pot over low flames to simmer a broth of roots and greens. She stirs it now and then with a long wooden spoon, the motion slow and even. Steam rises in lazy curls, carrying the faint, earthy scent of parsnip and wild thyme. She tastes it once, nods to herself, then adds a small handful of fresh sorrel leaves from the basket at her side. The sheep have wandered farther up the gentle slope behind the hamlet. They graze in their usual calm way, heads down, tails flicking lazily at flies. A lamb stays close to its mother, nudging her side now and then for milk. The ewe stands patient, continuing to crop the grass without pause. From the rise where the father sat earlier, the flock looks like a soft white cloud settled on the green. A young man from another house carries water from the stream in 2 clay pots balanced on a wooden yoke across his shoulders. He walks with steady, measured steps so the water does not spill. At each house he pauses briefly, pouring a little into waiting vessels just inside the doorways. No one speaks much during these small exchanges. Just a quiet nod, a murmured thanks. The routine is old, familiar, comforting in its sameness. Inside one roundhouse, a grandmother sits alone by the low fire. She has spread a length of finished cloth across her lap and is embroidering simple patterns along the edge with dyed wool, red from madder root, blue from woad. Her needle moves in and out with patient slowness. Each stitch is small even, deliberate. The designs are spirals and gentle curves, shapes that echo the paths of streams and the twist of growing vines. She works without hurry, letting the afternoon light fall across her hands. Outside again, the breeze picks up for a moment, moving through the thatch roofs with a soft rustle. It carries the distant sound of a blackbird, singing from the edge of the woods. Clear notes, repeated slowly, then falling silent. The sound drifts across the valley and fades, leaving only the hum of insects in the warm grass. Tasks continue in their quiet turn. Water carried, cloth woven, grain checked, fire tended. Nothing is rushed forward. Nothing is left undone. The day simply flows onward, smooth and untroubled. The sun begins its slow descent again, the light shifting from bright gold to softer amber. Shadows lengthen once more across the grass. The valley breathes deeply, holding the warmth of the day like a memory. Let that same gentle warmth settle into your own body now. Feel it in your hands, your shoulders, your chest. Breathe in the calm of this slow afternoon. Breathe out any remaining tension. Slow, steady, safe. Part 7. Evening arrives once more in the Celtic hamlet, soft and unhurried as always. The sun has slipped behind the western hills, leaving the sky streaked with pale rose and fading gold. The light dims gradually, turning everything in the valley to gentle shades of gray and muted green. Shadows pool deeper under the thatch roofs and along the bases of the roundhouses. A cool breath of air moves down from the higher ground, carrying the faint scent of cooling earth and distant wood smoke. Inside the roundhouse, the mother has already stirred the hearth back to a steady glow. She adds a few more pieces of peat, watching as the flames settle into their low, even burn. The firelight reaches out in soft circles, warming the woven walls and catching on the small clay bowls and wooden spoons lined along the low shelf. The room feels smaller now, safer, wrapped in its own quiet warmth. The daughter sits near the open doorway for a little while longer, watching the last of the daylight fade. She has wrapped a light wool shawl around her shoulders against the evening chill. Her hands rest folded in her lap. She listens to the slow sounds outside, the soft bleating of sheep settling in their pen, the rustle of leaves in the hawthorn hedge, the distant call of a night bird beginning its song. The father returns from checking the barley field one final time before full dark. His steps are slow across the grass, now damp with evening dew. He carries nothing in his hands today, just the quiet satisfaction of another day passed in its proper rhythm. He ducks through the low doorway, brushing a few stray bits of chaff from his tunic, then sits heavily on the rush mat near the fire. His face, lit by the gentle flames, looks calm and rested. The children come inside last, their small feet leaving faint wet prints on the earth floor. They shake out their cloaks and hang them on the wooden pegs near the wall. One child places a single smooth river stone they found by the stream onto the small pile near the hearth, a quiet offering to the fire spirits, as the elders sometimes do. The stone sits there, cool against the warm ground, slowly taking on the heat. Dinner tonight is simple again. The mother ladles a thick stew of barley, roots, and a few shreds of dried meat saved from earlier in the season. She adds a handful of the fresh herbs the daughter gathered this morning, mint and sorrel, stirring them in at the last moment, so they're green. Scent rises fresh and bright. They eat from the same wooden bowls, passing them slowly from hand to hand. The stew is warm, filling, tasting of the land itself. While they eat, the father speaks again in his low, measured voice. Tonight, the story is about the river that winds through the valley far below. He describes how it has flowed the same way since the oldest grandmothers were children, never rushing, always finding its path between the hills. He tells of the smooth pebbles it carries, polished over countless seasons, and how the water sings softly over them at night. The children listen with wide, sleepy eyes, spoons paused halfway to their mouths. After the bowls are set aside, the daughter takes up her small drop spindle again. She draws out a thin thread of wool, twisting it between her fingers as the spindle drops and spins. Whir, pause, whir, pause. The new thread coils neatly onto the shaft, pale and even. She works by firelight alone now, the glow soft on her hands. The mother banks the fire carefully for the night, piling ash over the embers so they will smolder gently until morning. She moves around the roundhouse in her quiet way, straightening a cloak here, tucking a hide blanket there. Everything is placed just so, ready for another dawn. Outside, the hamlet has grown completely still. Fires in other roundhouses burn low, too, their smoke thinning to faint wisps against the darkening sky. Stars appear one by one overhead, bright and steady. The mist begins to gather again in the lowest parts of the valley, rising slowly like pale breath from the sleeping earth. An owl calls from the edge of the woods. Once, twice, then falls quiet. The sheep huddle closer together in their pen, wool pressed warm against wool. The wind moves lightly through the thatch, making the smallest, softest sound, like someone breathing in the distance. Inside, the family settles onto their straw beds. Cloaks are drawn up, heads rest on folded arms or soft hides. The firelight fades to a dull red glow, outlining familiar shapes one last time before darkness takes the room. The night deepens. The valley holds its people gently, as it has for generations. Seasons turn, days repeat. Nothing changes quickly. Everything simply continues. Let this same deep stillness settle into you now. Feel your body grow heavy against the bed. Let each breath come slower, deeper, quieter. The ancient night is here with you, safe, calm, endless. The night passes quietly over the Celtic hamlet, deep and undisturbed. Stars wheel slowly overhead in their ancient paths. The moon, thin and silver, rises late and casts a faint, cool light across the thatch roofs and the sleeping valley. Mist thickens in the low places, wrapping the roundhouses in soft white silence. No sound disturbs the stillness except the occasional rustle of a small creature in the grass, or the distant sigh of wind moving through the trees. Inside every house, sleep holds gentle sway. Bodies rest heavy on straw and hides. Breathing comes slow and even. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, in perfect rhythm with the quiet turning of the earth. Dreams, if they come, are simple and calm. Fields of golden grain, the warm press of wool, the soft gurgle of the stream. As the darkest hour passes, the first faint paling appears in the eastern sky. Gray turns slowly to pale lavender, then to the softest rose. Dawn creeps in without announcement, as it has every morning since the first families settled here. The mother wakes before the light fully reaches the valley. She lies still for a moment, listening to the steady breathing around her. Then she rises quietly, feet finding the familiar cool earth floor. She kneels by the hearth and uncovers the banked embers. A gentle breath, a few dry twigs, a small piece of peat. The fire answers slowly. First a tiny spark, then a steady glow, then small flames that spread their warmth into the dim room. The daughter stirs next. She opens her eyes to the growing light filtering through the gaps in the thatch. She sits up, drawing her cloak closer, and watches the fire come back to life. The familiar scent of wood smoke fills the air again, comforting and unchanging. Outside, the father steps into the cool morning. Dew lies thick on the grass, soaking the hem of his tunic as he walks. He moves to the sheep pen first. The animals stir at his approach, lifting heads, blinking sleepily. He speaks to them in the same low murmur every morning. Soft words that mean safety, routine, home. He opens the gate and lets them drift out onto the damp pasture. They move slowly, cropping the wet grass with small, contented sounds. The children wake gradually. One slips outside barefoot to feel the dew between their toes. Another stays near the doorway, watching the sky lighten moment by moment. They collect small things as they always do. A fallen leaf turning gold at the edges, a feather caught on a bush, a pebble still cool from the night. These treasures are placed carefully on the low shelf inside, joining yesterday's finds in quiet collection. Breakfast comes together without hurry. The mother warms the last of the flatbreads on the hot stone. She adds a drizzle of the remaining honey, watching it melt slowly into the warm surface. The family gathers close to the hearth again. They eat in small bites, letting the sweetness linger on the tongue. The fire crackles softly. Steam rises from the clay cups of water, heated at the edge of the flames. After the meal, the day opens slowly. The daughter carries the empty water pots to the stream. The path feels the same under her feet. Smooth, worn, familiar. At the water's edge, she kneels and fills each pot, watching the clear current swirl around her hands. The sound is steady, soothing. Water over stone, water over stone. The mother tends the herb patch in the strengthening light. She pinches back a few leggy stems, gathers fallen leaves into a small pile. The plants release their green scent as she works, fresh, clean, alive. She hums faintly, the same wordless melody that has passed down through mothers for generations. The father walks the barley field in the early sun. The stalks stand taller now, heads heavier with each passing day. He moves between the rows with careful steps, listening to the soft rustle as the breeze moves through. He pauses to pull a single weed by hand, roots and all, then continues on. No rush. The harvest will come when the grain is ready, not before. Children wander between the houses again. They help where they can, carrying small armloads of kindling, sweeping the earth floor near a doorway with a bundle of rushes, fetching a forgotten tool from one house to another. Their movements are light, unhurried, part of the gentle flow of the morning. An elder sits outside her roundhouse in a patch of sun. She holds a length of twine and begins twisting it into cord. Slow turns of her wrists, steady pressure between her palms. The cord grows longer bit by bit, strong and even. She works with half-closed eyes, face tilted toward the warmth. The valley fills with soft sounds. Sheep grazing, birds calling from the hedgerows, the distant grind of a quernstone, the murmur of voices exchanging simple greetings. Smoke rises thin and straight from every roof. The light grows warmer, brighter, wrapping the hamlet in its gentle gold. Another day begins exactly as the last one did, and as the next one will. The same tasks, the same quiet rhythms, the same deep peace. Let that peace drift into you now. Feel your own morning slowness matching theirs. Breathe in the calm air. Breathe out any lingering restlessness. Slow, gentle, safe. Midday returns to the Celtic hamlet with its familiar gentle warmth. The sun stands at its highest point, bathing the valley in clear, even light. No harsh glare, just a soft, steady glow that makes the green of the hills look deeper and the thatch roofs appear almost golden. A light breeze moves through the barley, turning the field into slow, rolling waves of pale gold and green. The father has joined a few other men from neighboring houses at the edge of the settlement. They sit together on low stones near a small cluster of hazel trees. In their hands are lengths of freshly cut wood, straight hazel branches, still green and flexible. They work quietly, stripping the bark with small flint blades. The thin strips curl away in neat spirals, falling to the ground like pale ribbons. Later, these will be woven into baskets or used to repair fences. The motion of their hands is slow and careful. Scrape, turn, scrape, turn. No one speaks much. The work itself is the conversation. Near the roundhouses, the mother has spread a length of newly woven cloth on the clean grass to air and soften in the sun. She smooths it with her palms, pressing out any small creases. The wool catches the light, showing the even texture of every careful row. She places small, smooth stones along the edges to hold it flat against any stray breeze. Then she steps back, watching for a moment as the fabric rests there, quiet and useful. The daughter sits nearby in the shade of their own roundhouse wall. She has brought out a small bundle of dried rushes gathered from the stream bank last week. She sorts them by length and thickness, laying the longest ones aside for weaving mats. Her fingers move steadily, sorting, stacking, smoothing. The rushes smell faintly of water and earth, clean and cool even in the midday warmth. Children have gathered again in their favorite shaded spot between two houses. Today they play with small clay figures they shaped yesterday from the riverbank mud. The figures are simple, tiny people, sheep, a roundhouse with a peaked roof. They arrange them in patterns on the flat ground, moving them gently from place to place as if telling a wordless story. Their hands are careful. No one knocks anything over. The game is slow, thoughtful, peaceful. An older woman walks slowly along the path that circles the hamlet. She carries a woven basket lined with clean leaves. Inside rest a few handfuls of early apples, small, tart, still mostly green but beginning to blush pink on one side. She stops at each doorway she passes, offering one or two to whoever is near. A quiet exchange follows. Thanks given with a slow nod, a small smile. The apples are accepted with both hands, as though they carry more than just fruit. Inside one roundhouse, a man tends to a length of rope. He is twisting from twisted strands of wool and nettle fiber. He sits on a low stool, feet planted wide for balance. He turns the strands between his palms in a steady rhythm. Twist, pull, twist, pull. The rope grows longer coil by coil, strong and even. He works with half-closed eyes, letting muscle memory guide his hands while his mind rests in the familiar motion. From the stream comes the soft, repeating sound of someone washing wool. A young woman kneels at the shallow edge, pressing bundles of raw fleece into the cool current. She squeezes gently, lets the water carry away dirt and bits of leaf, then lifts the clean wool to inspect it in the light. The fleece gleams pale when wet, almost silver in the sun. She lays each cleaned bundle on flat stones to dry slowly in the warm air. The sheep have found shade under a lone hawthorn tree on the hillside. They lie close together, chewing cud in slow, dreamy circles of their jaws. A lamb nurses quietly, ears flicking at flies. The ewe stands patient, eyes half closed against the brightness. The valley holds all these small moments at once. Hands working wood, cloth airing in sun, children moving clay figures, apples shared at doorways, rope twisting, wool washing, sheep resting. Nothing competes, nothing rushes. Each task fits perfectly into the slow turning of the day. The sun begins its gradual slide westward again. Light softens at the edges. Shadows stretch longer across the grass. The air cools just enough to feel refreshing against warm skin. Let this midday calm flow into your own body now. Feel the gentle weight of your limbs, the slow rise and fall of your chest. Breathe in the warmth of the quiet valley. Breathe out any tightness. Slow, even, peaceful. The afternoon light in the Celtic Hamlet softens as the day begins its slow turn toward evening. The sun has moved westward, its rays now slanting longer across the valley. Golden patches appear on the hillsides where the light touches, while shadows gather cool and blue beneath the roundhouses and along the edges of the barley field. The air feels milder, carrying the faint sweetness of sun-warmed grass and the distant scent of wood smoke beginning to rise again. The father has returned from the hazel grove with the other men. They carry the finished lengths of stripped branches over their shoulders. Straight, pale, ready for use. He sets his bundle down neatly beside the house, then sits for a moment on the low bench outside the doorway. He stretches his legs slowly, letting the warmth of the fading sun rest on his face. His hands, rough from work, lie open on his knees. He breathes deeply, in time with the gentle rise and fall of the breeze. Inside, the mother has brought the aired cloth back into the roundhouse. She folds it carefully, running her palms along each crease to smooth it. The wool feels softer now, warmed and relaxed by the day's light. She places it on the low wooden shelf with the other finished pieces, pale stacks of cloth, waiting to become cloaks, tunics, or blankets when the colder months arrive. She steps back, nods once to herself, satisfied with the quiet progress. The daughter has finished sorting the rushes. She begins weaving a new mat near the hearth. She selects the longest stems first, laying them side by side in neat rows. Then, with steady fingers, she threads thinner rushes over and under in a simple over-under pattern. The mat grows slowly, row by row, inch by inch. The sound is soft, rustle, pull, rustle, pull. The fresh scent of the rushes fills the space around her, clean and green, like the stream bank after rain. Children have moved their small clay figures into the patch of late afternoon sun near the doorway. They sit in a loose half-circle, watching the light play across the tiny shapes. One child gently turns a little clay sheep so its face catches the glow. Another adds a few blades of grass around the roundhouse figure, pressing them lightly into the soft clay base. Their movements are careful, almost reverent. No hurry, no noise beyond the occasional soft murmur of delight at how the light changes everything. An elder woman from the next house steps over with a small clay bowl of fresh curds she has made from the morning's milk. The curds are thick and creamy, faintly sour in the best way. She sets the bowl down near the hearth with a quiet word to the mother. A wooden spoon rests inside. The mother thanks her with a slow smile and a touch to the elder's arm. They stand together for a moment, watching the children play, sharing the comfortable silence that comes from years of living side by side. Outside, a few hens scratch lazily near the pen. Their feathers catch the golden light, turning reddish gold at the edges. They peck at seeds scattered earlier, moving in their own slow, contented rhythm. A rooster perches on a low stone wall, head tilted, watching the valley without urgency. From the far side of the hamlet comes the faint, steady rhythm of someone pounding roots with a wooden pestle. The sound carries across the quiet air. Thump, pause, thump, pause, mixing with the softer rustle of leaves overhead. The woman working the pestle works in shade, seated on a rush mat. She pauses now and then to sift the crushed roots through her fingers, checking the texture before continuing. The sheep have drifted back closer to the houses as the day cools. They graze in small groups, heads low, tails flicking lazily. A ewe calls once to her lamb, low and gentle. The lamb answers and trots over, pressing close to her side. They stand together in the warm light, chewing slowly. The valley holds these final afternoon moments with the same gentle care it has all day, hands weaving rushes, cloth folded, curds shared, figures turned in sunlight, sheep grazing, roots pounded, hens scratching. Everything continues without haste. Each small task completes itself in its own time, then rests until tomorrow. The light deepens to amber. Shadows stretch farther. The first cool breath of evening moves down from the hills, brushing across skin and thatch alike. Let this same soft evening calm settle over you now. Feel the gentle shift in the air around your body. Let your breath match the slow rhythm of the valley winding down. In, slow, and out. Deeper, warm, quiet, safe. Twilight settles once again over the Celtic hamlet, gentle and familiar. The sky has deepened to a soft lavender, streaked with the last pale threads of gold along the western horizon. The valley grows quieter with each passing moment. Shadows merge into one another, turning the green hills to muted gray. The air cools slowly, carrying the clean scent of evening dew beginning to form on the grass and the faint, comforting smell of hearth fires rekindled for the night. Inside the roundhouse, The mother has already coaxed the fire back to a steady, low burn. She adds small pieces of dry wood this time, watching as the flames rise just enough to warm the space without filling it with too much smoke. The glow spreads softly across the woven walls, catching on the stacks of folded cloth, the small clay bowls, the bundles of dried herbs hanging from the rafters. Everything looks peaceful in this familiar light. Safe, unchanging. The daughter sits close to the hearth now, knees drawn up under her cloak. She has brought out the small drop spindle again. She draws out a fresh length of wool, twisting it between her fingers as the spindle drops and spins. Whir, pause, whir, pause. The new thread coils neatly onto the growing bobbin. The motion is slow, hypnotic, matching the quiet rhythm of the evening. Firelight dances across her hands, turning the pale wool warm gold for a moment with each turn. The father steps inside from the last check of the day. His tunic is damp at the hem from the rising dew. He brushes his hands together, then sits heavily on the rush mat near the fire. He stretches his legs toward the warmth, letting the heat ease the small stiffness from walking the fields and the pen. His face, lit by the gentle flames, carries the calm of a day well lived. No worry, no haste, only quiet contentment. The children come in last, their small forms silhouetted briefly against the fading twilight outside the doorway. They shake out their cloaks and hang them carefully on the wooden pegs. One child places a single late daisy, petals still open, into the clay bowl near the hearth. The flower rests there, pale against the dark earth floor, a small brightness in the dimming room. Dinner tonight is warm and simple once more. The mother heats a pot of barley porridge over the low flames, stirring slowly with a long wooden spoon. She adds a few crushed, dried berries saved from earlier in the season. Small bursts of deep purple that melt into the thick grain. The scent rises gently, sweet, earthy, comforting. They eat from wooden bowls, passing them slowly around the circle near the fire. Each spoonful is taken without hurry, savored in the quiet. While they eat, the father speaks in his low, steady voice again. Tonight, the story is about the moon that watches over the valley. He describes how it changes shape each month. Thin crescent, full bright circle, then fading back to nothing, yet always returns the same way. He tells of how the elders once said, "The moon remembers every season that has passed over these hills, holding the quiet stories of the people in its silver light." The children listen with heavy eyelids, heads resting against shoulders, spoons forgotten in their hands. After the bowls are empty and set aside, the mother moves around the roundhouse in her gentle way. She straightens a cloak here, tucks a hide blanket there, places the small clay bowl of water closer to the hearth so it stays warm through the night. Everything is arranged just as it should be. Simple, orderly, ready for morning. The daughter finishes another length of thread on the spindle. She winds it carefully onto the bobbin, then sets the tool aside on the low shelf. She stretches her arms slowly overhead, feeling the soft pull in her shoulders, then settles back against the wall near the fire. Outside, the hamlet has fallen completely silent. Fires burn low in every roundhouse, their smoke thinning to faint gray wisps against the deepening sky. Stars appear overhead, one by one, small, steady points of light that have watched this valley for countless nights. The mist rises again from the low ground, wrapping the houses in pale, soft layers. Sheep huddle together in their pen, wool pressed warm against wool, breathing slow clouds into the cool air. An owl calls once from the distant trees, low, soft, then silent. The wind moves lightly through the thatch roofs, making the smallest whisper of sound. Nothing disturbs the peace. The night simply deepens, holding everything gently. Inside, the family lies down on their straw beds. Cloaks are drawn up to chins. Heads rest on folded arms or soft hides. The hearth glows dull red now, just enough to outline familiar shapes one final time before full darkness settles. The mother banks the fire last, covering the embers with ash so they will wait patiently until dawn. The roundhouse grows still. Only the softest sounds remain. The slow, even breathing of sleep, the occasional tiny pop of a cooling ember, the faint sigh of wind outside. Let this deep, quiet night wrap around you too. Feel your body grow heavier against the bed, sinking slowly into rest. Let each breath come slower, deeper, quieter. The ancient valley sleeps with you. Calm, safe, endless. The Celtic Hamlet sleeps deeply through the quiet hours of night. The moon has climbed high now, its thin silver light, filtering down through gaps in the thatch, roofs, and touching the sleeping forms. Inside each roundhouse, shadows lie long and soft across the earth floors. The mist outside has thickened into a gentle blanket, muffling every sound until the valley feels wrapped in perfect stillness. Only the slowest breathing can be heard. Steady, even, unbroken. Inside this roundhouse, the family rests without stirring. The mother lies on her side, one arm folded beneath her head, cloak pulled close. Her breath is slow and deep, matching the faint rise and fall of the dying embers. The father sleeps on his back, hands open at his sides, face smooth in complete rest. The children curl together under shared hides, small chests moving gently up and down, dreams carrying them through fields of endless green or along the quiet stream they know so well. The hearth has settled to a dull, steady red glow. No flames dance now, just a soft warmth that lingers in the stones and the air. The scent of peat smoke has faded to something faint and comforting, like the memory of the fire itself. Everything in the roundhouse holds still. The stacked bowls, the folded cloths, the small pile of river stones by the wall, the single daisy resting in its clay bowl. All of it waits patiently for morning. Outside, the sheep stand or lie close in their pen, wool pressed together for shared warmth. Their breathing makes small clouds in the cool air, rising and dissolving slowly. A night bird calls once from far across the valley, soft, distant, then falls quiet again. The wind has eased to almost nothing, moving only enough to brush the thatch with the lightest whisper. Time passes without measure here. Hours blend into one another, the way days blend into seasons. Spring will come again with new green shoots. Summer will bring long, warm light and heavy heads of grain. Autumn will paint the hills in gold and russet. Winter will cover everything in quiet frost. And through it all, the hamlet will continue in its gentle cycle, tending, weaving, sharing, resting, never hurried, never changed in its deep calm. The first hint of dawn is still far away. The sky remains dark, stars bright and steady overhead. The valley holds its breath, cradling every sleeping soul in the same ancient peace it has offered for generations. Tonight, let this same endless calm become yours. Feel your own body grow heavier, sinking deeper into the bed. Let every thought drift away like mist over the hills. Your breath slows now, slower, matching the quiet rhythm of this place so far away in time, yet so close in stillness. In and out, deeper, quieter, safer. The fire has almost gone to sleep. The night wraps everything gently. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to carry. Only rest, only peace, only the slow turning of the world. The hamlet dreams on, and so may you. The story has now reached its gentle end, after 12 peaceful parts, as the ancient Celtic hamlet settles fully into rest. The valley lies quiet under the stars, the roundhouses dark and warm, the hearth fires banked low until dawn. The seasons continue their slow, unchanging turn. Nothing hurried, nothing lost. Thank you for resting here with Mindleapic tonight. May this calm stay with you as you drift deeper into sleep. Breathe slowly. Let every thought soften and fade. Feel the weight of quiet peace wrap around you completely. Good night, gentle listener. Sleep well.